Yes, yes, yes. Hope we are all good, team. So in this one, we're going to go over a race day or competition day kind of checklist. This applies for every single competitive athlete, regardless if you're a strength athlete, regardless if you're high rocks, marathons, half marathons, ultra marathons. It doesn't really matter. This checklist should stand testament to all of us. All right. So let's get into it. I think your race day checklist starts from the night before. Make sure that you double check every single thing that you're needing to take to competition to race day. Pack your bag, pack your kit the night before. It will save you stress on the day. It will save you running around like a headless chicken, like I do. And if you've got an outstanding missus or partner, get them to double check your race day kit as well. Cassandra will be ending herself at this because regardless of how many times I go through a list, I always forget something. But always, always, always make sure that you check every single thing so that you're not needing to buy anything, you're not needing to miss anything out, or needing to go to the shop before you go to the competition to then um pick up anything. Make sure that you've got absolutely everything the night before. All right. So things like your race shoes, your kit, powerlifters, make sure you've got your deadlift shoes, make sure you've got your squat shoes, make sure that you've got your wrist straps and things like that. Hyrox athletes, make sure that you've got multiple pairs of race shoes as well, just in case the grip on one pair isn't that good. So once you actually test the sleds and stuff like that, once you test the sleds when you're warming up. Make sure you've got multiple pairs. Obviously, if you do have multiple pairs, if you're racing or running a marathon or a half marathon, make sure that you've got multiple pairs of shoes so that if the weather changes, for example, you've got appropriate footwear for you. Extra race clothes as well. Surely I'm not the only one who's ripped a pair of shorts before they go and race. It happened to me in Birmingham. So yeah, make sure you pack extra like race clothing as well. Fully charged gear, make sure that your watch, your heart rate monitor, your phone, your headphones, things of that, all your technical stuff, make sure that's all charged and that you bring chargers with you as well. Race day supplements, your beta alanine, your creatine, your L-citrulline, your caffeine, things of that nature. Make sure it's packed. You don't need to actually pack the full supplement, but bring it in containers in Tupperware. Passport for Hyrox athletes. I am guilty of this. I've yet to actually bring a passport or any form of ID to a race day, but I've got a photo of on my phone. But just make sure, because sometimes they don't accept it. Make sure that you've got ID on you as well, or that you might not race then. All right, so make sure that you've got your list of absolutely everything that you need. And again, food as well. I've missed it out on this list as well. Make sure that you've got all your food, your pre-race snacks and nutrition, stuff like that is always going to be key for us. All right. Um, couple of protocols that we want to make sure that we are doing the morning of competition. Okay. Hydration upon wake. Don't leave it till you've had a coffee and then you start taking supplement and then you start taking some water. Make sure that you're hydrating upon wake. You don't want to be chasing your hydration throughout the course of the day or when you're racing or when you're competing or anything like that. A good guide to follow is 5 to 10 milligrams per kilo per body weight. Um, so just make sure that you're making sure that hydration is the priority as soon as you wake up, and then you can obviously have your morning coffee and things like that. Carbohydrate timing is obviously going to be a little bit different for those who compete really early. So if you've got like an early kickoff time in your competition, whether it's high rocks or whatnot, then this can obviously differ. I don't imagine you wanting to wake up at 5 a.m. for an 8 o'clock wave because we ideally want to be consuming our big prey competition meal about 2.5 to 3 hours before we compete. So if you are racing early, then obviously we want to make sure that we are fueling the evening of, and then the morning of it will just be your kind of pre-race snacks, if you will. But if you've got a competition start time, later on in the day, this is going to be a guide for you to consume. again, 2.5 hours to 3 hours before you actually compete. 1 to 3 grams of carbohydrates per kilo of body weight. Minimize fat intake. Keep protein relatively the same, and stick to regular food sources. The amount of people that completely change their nutrition on the lead up of competition, eat burgers, eat macaroni and cheese, eat massive pizzas and things like that, things that you've not had before before a competition, or you've had before big key kind of priority sessions, or you've just not had for weeks. It baffles me the amount of people that do that. Don't do it. Stick to regular food groups or food sources that you've been consuming for weeks and weeks and weeks. This is why as athletes we don't change much in on table week or anything like that. The only thing that we really change is we just feed you a little bit more carbohydrates a couple of days before, and then obviously we just nailed that on day nutrition by having 1 to 3 grams per kilo per body weight. All right. Do not change anything. Caffeine, whether that's your pre-workout supplement, if you take caffeine in a beta-alanine, for example, I would still be taking that caffeine hit 50 to 60 minutes pre-race, just because of pre-race nerves. Adrenaline is going to spike, excitement is going to spike, heart rate's going to spike, nerves and stress are going to be there as well. And we just want to make sure that um in all honesty, we've got time to go to the bathroom before you race. Caffeine can obviously cause you to need to go to the bathroom fairly soon after consuming caffeine. So we just want to make sure that you're not going to be having any accidents or any last minute stress, if you will, before we race. The half-life of caffeine is 8 hours, right? So you're not going to then burn out, or that caffeine hit isn't going to then wear away during the race or before you even start. There are people that think caffeine is just going to go out their system within an hour. It baffles me. It doesn't. Caffeine stays in your system for 8 hours. So you're still going to get the benefits of having caffeine. And if you're consuming beta-alanine as well, which we all should, then again, that's not just going to go out your system in a couple of hours. That will stay in your system for hours upon hours. So again, 50 to 60 minutes to be safe should be your last caffeine hit. Carb top-ups, this is what I'm meaning. If you've got an early wave, if you're racing at like 8 a.m. and you don't want to get up at 5 to make a big meal, then this is what you would have. You'd obviously have your big meal the evening of. And then you would have your kind of carb top-ups of 20 to 40 grams of easily digestible carbs, fruits, sports drink, gels, jelly sweets, things of that nature are always going to be really, really good for us. Cereal again is another good one. Or cereal bars are always a good one. So things of that nature are always going to be really, really good if you've got an early time, or if you've just got a later on time, and you just need a bit of a top up, an energy top up, then something like that guideline is going to be good for us. Females more so the 20 to 30, males more 30 to, if you're a heavier athlete or you got more muscle mass, then 30 to 50 grams, about half an hour before your race is always going to be good for you. Again, choose or select food groups and sources that you've used throughout your competition prep. Don't be in Haribos and chocolate squares bars and things of that nature if you've not been using them during your preparation. If you've been using fruit and things and sports drinks and gels, then stick to that. Don't change anything on race day. All right. Again, we want to try and keep things as routine as you possibly can. This is why we train for weeks and months on end, so you can start practicing these things. All right. What I would say as well is with the 1 to 3 grams, obviously this is going to be completely person dependent, and this is why we jump on calls pre-competitions so we can actually understand what amount of carbohydrates that you're going to actually need before you race. But if you've not had a high carbohydrate meal before any kind of priority like threshold sessions, for example, or big lift sessions, then I would scale on the lighter end of this. If you have been nailing your carbohydrates as you should be, you've had a high carbohydrate kind of diet throughout your entire prep, then the upper end of that, so 3 grams per kilo of body weight, is always going to be more preferred, especially if you're an individual who's got high levels of muscle mass, because that muscle mass is just going to eat away throughout competition, especially if you're racing half marathon, marathons, ultras, and high roxes and stuff like that. Then you're going to need that extra carbohydrate. So if you're a heavier, more muscular athlete, then the higher amount of carbohydrates is going to be more beneficial and something that we need to lean into more. All right. So that is the race day checklist. Hopefully that all made sense. Again, this is very generalized. Each individual person, again, on our calls this week and things like that, and through WhatsApp, we are going to nail your nutrition to make sure that you're as on point as you possibly can be. But yeah, again, off the back of this, if you've got anything that you're a little bit unsure of, then again, just send me a WhatsApp and we can go over things in a little bit more detail. But yeah, if you've already got a call booked in for this week, then we of course can go over that in a bit more detail, a bit more specific for you. All right, team.